Hello, I'm Mike, and this is Communication English for IELTS. We'll start with an introduction of the program. Okay, one major difficulty for non-native English speakers is that lessons don't start at the very beginning. We first learn our native language as infants, surrounded by seemingly random sounds that gradually form into recognizable patterns. Over time, we understand that these patterns are words with many meanings, and they can be put together into larger patterns that we call sentences. We first learn to communicate in our native language by guessing what the words mean, testing our guesses, and putting words into categories. We do this before we ever go to school or open a textbook. When we are ready to study grammar in school, we learn complex grammar categories like nouns, conjunctions, etc., and hundreds of grammar rules. This complexity confuses, frustrates, and to beginners can be very discouraging and cause them to learn more slowly. That's why it can sometimes be easier to learn like a child. As children, we use very simple categories for words, things, actions, and some words that describe them or connect other words. Once we have the basic categories, we learn that words often fit into multiple categories and that there are rules for using words differently. That by changing their pronunciation or position in a sentence, for example, we can change their meaning. Our subconscious minds are masters at recognizing these patterns and absorbing the complex rules, but it takes a long time and consistent exposure to the language. This program imitates that process, which makes learning faster and more intuitive, but we make it faster by using colors to demonstrate patterns. This lets us use other parts of our mind and reduces the reliance on memory alone. This is especially useful for people who find the traditional ways difficult. Returning to our basic word categories, we had things, actions, and connecting words. We assign each one a different color. Blue for things, red for actions, and green for connecting words. Descriptive words which describe our things or our actions will be light colors. To summarize, things are dark blue, words that describe things are light blue. Actions are dark red, things that describe actions are light red. Connecting words are green. It's a simple, so easy, even children can do it because it's kind of what they do. But of course, we want to learn faster than children, so we'll make the patterns even more clear by underlining prefixes and suffixes, which are additional sounds attached to the beginning or end of the words to let us use it in a different way. We'll also account for phrases like idioms or phrasal verbs, which have unexpected meanings and don't follow the standard patterns. We'll identify them by drawing a line through them. No matter what your current level of English is, whether you want to learn from the beginning or just want extra practice, this is a really good way to get that practice. Let's begin the lesson. Part 1, vocabulary. We begin our vocabulary study with the most frequently used words in English, which are often short, simple words used to construct sentences. They're used very frequently and often have many different meanings and uses, and are often combined into phrases like phrasal verbs that have unexpected meanings. So it's important to study these words in detail. The vocabulary words are color-coded to show the categories they fit into. Let's start by practicing pronunciation. Just listen and repeat after me. If you are studying only from the videos, you should record your voice and compare it to mine. Let's begin. Okay. He was for on are with as I his they Okay, now start by memorizing the most common uses for each word. Make flashcards for every lesson. Write the English on the front and write the Vietnamese on the back. First, look at the English and try to remember the Vietnamese. Then look at the Vietnamese and try to remember the English. You will soon have a lot of flashcards and you will need to practice and review them every day. Extended vocabulary. Words are really complex, and if you only study the basic meanings, you will have a poor foundation and you will have a lot of problems. Unfortunately, words often have too many meanings for classroom discussion, and any textbook that taught all of them would be, well, the dictionary. And that's exactly where you need to look to understand all of the meanings, because that's the only place you can find them. Your homework is to find each of the vocabulary words in a good dictionary and read all of the meanings and all of the uses. Of course, you shouldn't try to memorize the dictionary, but you can't possibly remember something you've never read. So you should read about each word, think about the various uses, and make notes of anything interesting or useful to you. Okay, part 2, listening. As babies, our language journey begins with listening. First, we hear random sounds, and over time, we identify the sounds as words. As we learn to identify the sounds of a language, we can learn to pronounce them and use them in sentences. It all starts with listening. In this practice, let's focus on listening for keywords. Listen to the passage and write each vocabulary word as you hear it. The words will often be used many times and in many ways. It's not easy, and you will probably have to listen a few times. Let's begin.
He was excited for his first cooking lesson. I noticed the gleam in his eyes as he put on his apron. There was a sense of pride and anticipation that are common with beginners. He took a deep breath, and as I watched, he started chopping vegetables. They were soon sizzling away on the pan, filling the kitchen with a delightful aroma.
Okay, great job. Replay that as many times as you need to. Okay, let's take the practice a little further. Listen again, and this time read along with the passage. Compare the English spelling with the pronunciation. Write the vocabulary words in the empty spaces.
He was excited for his first cooking lesson. I noticed the gleam in his eyes as he put on his apron. There was a sense of pride and anticipation that are common with beginners. He took a deep breath, and as I watched, he started chopping vegetables. They were soon sizzling away on the pan, filling the kitchen with a delightful aroma.
And here it is, one more time from the beginning with just the English.
He was excited for his first cooking lesson. I noticed the gleam in his eyes as he put on his apron. There was a sense of pride and anticipation that are common with beginners. He took a deep breath, and as I watched, he started chopping vegetables. They were soon sizzling away on the pan, filling the kitchen with a delightful aroma.
Part 3, pattern recognition. This is a simple exercise that lets you learn English more like a skill and less like an academic subject. It's also a really good way to analyze text. And with a little practice, you'll be able to analyze most sentences in just a few seconds. Starts with a 3-line format, with the English on top and the Vietnamese translation on the bottom. The middle line has the pronunciation, and it tells you more about the sentence. The vocabulary words are colored, so you can see how they are used in this sentence. Prefixes and suffixes are underlined, and idiomatic phrases are identified with a line through them. First, using colored pencils, color the vocabulary in the top lines and the bottom line the same color as the middle line. Underline the prefixes and suffixes in the English and their equivalents in the Vietnamese, when possible. Draw a line through idiomatic language in the English and in the matching Vietnamese. Next, guess the colors of the remaining words. If you know them, good. If you want to use a dictionary to help, that's great too. If you just want to guess a random color, also okay. Just do your best. It can also be really helpful to give yourself a time limit. Maybe 2 minutes per sentence when you first begin. When you finish, it will look something like this. And if you look closely in this example, you can see that look is used in two different ways. It's used as an action when it's red and as a thing when it's blue. Do that for the rest of the sentences in the passage, then check your answer and correct your mistakes. Okay, this is what your paper should look like when you finish. If it doesn't look like mine, you should correct your mistakes. And if you see that I made a mistake, let me know in the comments. Part 4, pronunciation. This is difficult and important, and it's actually a physical skill that involves training the muscles that we use for speaking. There's about 100 of them. Okay, in this part, just listen and repeat. You need to practice a lot, and it's best to practice with a native speaker who understands how to train you to pronounce the sounds correctly. If you can join my online or in-person classes, awesome, it will help you a lot. Email me at the address below to get started, or just practice with the video. Remember, it's best to record your voice and compare. He was excited for his first cooking lesson. He was excited for his first cooking lesson. He was excited for his first cooking lesson. I noticed the gleam in his eyes as he put on his apron. I noticed the gleam in his eyes as he put on his apron. I noticed the gleam in his eyes as he put on his apron. There was a sense of pride and anticipation that are common with beginners. There was a sense of pride and anticipation that are common with beginners. There was a sense of pride and anticipation that are common with beginners. He took a deep breath And as I watched, he started chopping vegetables. He took a deep breath, and as I watched, he started chopping vegetables. He took a deep breath, and as I watched, he started chopping vegetables. They were soon sizzling away on the pan, filling the kitchen with the delightful aroma. They were soon sizzling away on the pan, filling the kitchen with a delightful aroma. They were soon sizzling away on the pan, filling the kitchen with a delightful aroma. Part 5, discussion and other questions. In, on, and at are prepositions that are often used to indicate time and place. Here's a brief explanation of when each one is typically used. Okay, in for place, use in to indicate being inside or within a defined space, such as countries, cities, or rooms. For example, in London, in the office, in a box. And for time, use in for months, years, centuries, and longer periods of time. For example, in December, in 2023, in the 21st century, in 1 hour. On. For place, we use on to indicate being on a surface or a line, like a road, or for some public transportation, for example, on the table, on the road, on the bus. And for time, we use it for specific days or dates. For example, on Tuesday, on my birthday, on May 15th. And at. We use at for a more specific location or places, or when referring to an event. For example, at the end of the street, at the entrance, at the concert. And for time, we use at for specific times of the day and for holiday periods. For example, at 10 p.m., at sunset, at Christmas. These questions discover different things about English. Some will be about the training script or your dictionary reading. Other questions will be more advanced or based on the traditional rules of grammar. If you're a beginner with a very small vocabulary or terrible pronunciation, improving those areas should be your first priority, with pronunciation being the most important. When you are ready for the next step, focus on the more advanced questions. They might require a Google search or even benefit from a teacher's guidance. If you want someone to help you with grammar, well, in my opinion, a skilled Vietnamese teacher is better most of the time, unless you are very well advanced. Email me and I'll be happy to introduce you to someone. All right, here are the questions. Number 1. What was the boy excited about? 2. How did he feel as a beginner? 3. What did he do after putting on his apron? 4. What happened to the vegetables after he chopped them? And 5. Summarize the difference between in, on, and at. Give some examples. Time for the answers. Number 1, he was excited about his first cooking lesson. Number 2, he felt proud and excited. 3, he chopped vegetables after putting on his apron. Number 4, the vegetables were put into the frying pan and cooked. And number 5, your answers on this will be different, but answer in the comments and I will check it for you, or join my class for the best feedback. That's the end, guys. Good job. Thanks and goodbye. Remember to like, subscribe, and share this video. And if you are not in my classes already, why not? Message me now and sign up today.